Farmer Tom here. Welcome to the Farmer Tomcast. And today on our ongoing series, Heroes of the Green, we've got Allison Bigelow, legendary hemp pioneer and all-around cannabis advocate. How's it going, Allison?
Oh, it's going pretty good, pretty good. How are you doing, Tom?
Good. Just going okay for me. I've played my right cards considering the current state of everything. But on to your story. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
Allison, can you tell everybody your cannabis and hemp story?
Yeah, it's a kind of a long story, but I think you got a little bit of time. Began my hemp activism. The environment is very important to me, and I had been against incineration. And so I learned a lot about that and how things run with that. And I was teaching people about reduce, reuse, and recycle. But then that just seemed like a Band-Aid. When I found out about hemp, it just seemed like a no-brainer that we should use hemp, for all of the different, it would be useful in clothing and paper and to replace in plastics, not only for the fiber that you need to make into composite materials, but, well, it's just an amazing plant. And so I got on board with hemp and opened up a hemp store in 1995. At the time, I had two young children. The oldest one was just going into kindergarten. And my sister, Eve Lentz, lived in the house with us, with her son as well. And so she helped me in the store a lot. When I wasn't there, she would be there. We used to do radio ads from our store. The station was up in Bellingham, and it could reach out to Port Townsend. And I was sponsoring the Grateful Dead Hour. And so in order to do that, I would get, I think it was 16 times they would play my 1-minute commercial. And it was like a big soapbox that I got up on and telling the world how wonderful hemp is. One of them started out, George Washington. I can't remember the rest of it, but, I had a busload of high school girls come after a basketball game that they had played in our area that had come from Port Townsend. That's how I know it reached that far, because they had heard the radio commercial and they wanted to come see the store. I had a teacher come in the store before because a student had come, and the teacher at the beginning of the year had told the whole class, well, if any of you come up with a solution to our, climate problems, greenhouse gas and all of that, then I will give you the rest of the year off with no homework. And the guy came to my store, the kid had learned, came back and told him, well, I think industrial hemp could do it. And so the teacher came in to see and actually let the kid off of homework for the year for that. So that was pretty cool. We used to distribute flyers when we were there. It was like an activist center. And we had one of my favorite ones was made by Ellen Comp that used to work for a magazine called Hemp World that we used to sell at the store. And it told about not just the industrial uses of hemp, but also the medical. And a lot today, that's all you hear about. Everybody's talking about CBD, but back in the day, we were talking about hemp. And I've been known to say hemp can save the world, and other hempsters have been saying that. And I've always felt like a little fly in somebody's ear getting batted away year after year. But I'm like feeling more and more like people are finally being like, well, what was it that Hempster said? What was that can save the earth? Oh, okay. I mean, not just the earth, but the earth's people too. So I'm just so passionate about it. The other thing was having read Jack Herer's The Emperor Wears No Clothes. That was super inspirational to me. And when I've given speeches in various events, like at Hempfest, Seattle Hempfest, or different places, usually I will add, if you haven't read Jack Herer's book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, then you do not know the true history of the world. So anyway, I was also the first to sell hemp clothing and shoes at Seattle Hempfest in 1995. And my sister Eve, when I say she was with me with a lot of this. I went to Green Cross meetings in 96 with my friend Jimmy Wheeler, who used to grow for the Green Cross. That's a patient group that was operating here. It was the first actually national organization to call themselves the Green Cross. And now you see Green Crosses everywhere. But Joanna McKee, the founder of it, back in, she founded, 1993, after a raid she had in Kitsap County. Anyway, that's Joanna's thing. We went to her meeting in Seattle, in West Seattle, with Jimmy to discuss the language for medical marijuana initiative. And we reviewed all the bills and came up with language that we thought was good. But that one didn't make it that year. But we did work hard on that. And let's see, I also got really involved when I was still having my store with the Media Awareness Project. And they are part of Drug Sense, which is a national drug policy organization. And Media Awareness Project is a group of people that volunteer their time to news hawk various articles or even television shows, I suppose, but usually printed articles and whatnot. And when you do a news hawk, you not only give the source and also the article, but you also give the information of how to write a letter to the editor of that particular newspaper or magazine. And so we were all writing letters to the editor at through Media Awareness Project. And you could, it's their website, it's still going, MapInc, MAPINC.org. And they'll help you. If you send your letter in, they will look at it and tweak it if it needs a little bit of tweaking, and make it better oftentimes, or maybe they'll leave it alone. And also they have a database of everybody that's ever written letters to the editor that have been part of this. They have in a big, huge file. It's really an interesting website. I recommend for people to go there. And in 1997, my sister Eve and I both became members of the board of Washington Hemp Education Network, which was an organization. We'd been watching them for several years. They had formed in 1994. Bob Owen and, now Dr. David Edwards, gosh, he was an awesome man. We used to do things like lobby the legislature. Our mission was educate, and Washington Hemp Education Network is WHEN, when. And so one of their favorite sayings was, legalize marijuana, just say when. In 1998, I went with my sister Eve and then our friend Magic, who started Grandma's for Ganja. We went up to Delta, British Columbia to a hemp field, and they were having a harvest up there. That might have been one of my favorite days in my life. Just being there, you could see Mount Baker in the background, which is a beautiful snow-capped mountain, and the hemp field was just gorgeous. It was planted very close, not like people are growing today for CBD. It was grown for the seed mostly. So it was grown really closely together. and it got really tall. It was just gorgeous. I took pictures of that, and over the years, I've taken those photos to legislature to show them when there was a different hemp farming bill that would come up, to show them how we didn't need to study anything, that was right there across the border that's growing, and you can just talk to them. They're right there. King County Bar Association had done a drug policy project back in like 1999. It ended in 2001 when they released a final report, and there were different work groups that different ones of us would meet. One was for cannabis, but others were for other drugs. And they all came up with different information. And after that report was released, the next legislative session, our legislature changed the laws as far as drug policy goes to be less harsh and more compassionate, but it's still got a long way to go. But I feel like we did a little bit of good there. So yeah, in between there were lots of parades, like at the Fremont parade with other Hempfest people. We get together and dress up. I always dress up as Lady Liberty. I started that when I first went to Hempfest back in '95. The Lady Liberty costume it's red, white, and blue, and it has green marijuana leaves sewed onto it. And that's kind of like my trademark, or it was. I kind of stopped for a while after 9/11 and it just kind of got weird to be wearing the flag right then. But I've taken it back over again more recently, because I've always felt really patriotic about hemp and cannabis and what it can do for the world and the country and people. I think it's apple pie and, mom and dad stuff. So, okay. So yeah, parades. We've been in parades, and I've had booths educating people at street fairs. In 2002, my marriage ended, and I moved up to Canada. I took my kids out of school for half a year, and I moved up to Canada, and I was helping Mark Emery up there for about 4 months, I'd say. It was when he was doing, they had an election going on where they had a candidate in every, they call them riding up in Canada, the different locations, like kind of a city council sort of, or county commissioner sort of a position. And I helped with just the organization and kind of a Girl Friday, go get this, go get that. And I did help a little bit with some of the orders that he would get of helping to fulfill those, just writing on the cardboard, on the seed for the seeds. What that was kind of fun. So after, the one thing about Mark that I learned when I was up there, what I learned about cannabis, or I don't know, I learned from him about cannabis, is that he didn't hold on to the money that he was making. He would listen to somebody that wanted some funding for a project that they wanted to do. And if they had a good plan and it was thought out, he would usually fund that. He was the only person I knew that would help fund people that were being prosecuted to be defended. And he would commit to funding something before he knew he had the money in his hand to be able to do it. But it always would be there when it was time to give the money. And so he basically was letting cannabis be the boss. I don't know how to say that exactly, but um, if you work for the plant will see that your needs are met. And he never did get, like, I'm sure had lots of money that came through there, but he never lived the millionaire lifestyle. And that's been my thing too. Like, I've worked for cannabis my entire adult life since 1995 anyway. I'm taken care of, but I'm not living a really fancy lifestyle. I remember when in our state, when collectives were starting, or not collectives, but the dispensaries were coming into town, and people that hated calling themselves collectives because they really were dispensaries, and they'd be saying, well, I can't bank. I don't know what to do with all the money. And and I'd be like, well, we're just supposed to be sharing expenses. That's what the law said for collective gardens, is sharing expenses. Like, there shouldn't be any money that you need to bank. So what are you talking about? Anyway, that was my philosophy, and it's gotten me to this point where I'm now 63 and I have no retirement. But anyway, back to this timeline here. In 2002, I came back from Canada with the feeling that I had somebody behind me if I did get in trouble. And so I went to my friend Dale Rogers, who is the director of Compassion in Action, and asked him if I could help him. Compassion in Action was kind of like the Green Cross, doing, a patient collective. And he sent me to another person, that Martin Martinez, who has the Lifeline Foundation. And I worked for Martin for about a year. He was the growing end of it. Dale was more the seeing the patient end of it and all of the patient advocacy. And so one of the things I really liked about when I was helping Martin that we did was he had been prosecuted before this, and had the lawyer, I believe was Douglas Hyatt, ended up getting him off on community service because he's a patient and he shouldn't have been raided. And then for his community service, he wrote a book. The book happened to be this book about medical cannabis and all of the different uses. He put in all the medical literature that was currently available. Every study that's been done that was a peer-reviewed study. We sent a copy of that book when I worked for him to every physician in our state of Washington. So I thought that was really cool. We did that in 2002. The Compassion in Action is the group that I was more affiliated with. I ended up not staying working with Martin with Lifeline. I just started to grow with a couple other people, and we grew as a collective for Compassion in Action. We were able to lower the cost of the medicine to the patients because it had been a buyer's club. All of the places mostly were buyer's clubs, and it was being brought in, at high prices that patients ended up having to pay. And with us doing it and a few other people that we ended up getting set up, we were able to bring medicine into our collective for the other patients. There's a lot of patients in these collectives that aren't able to grow for themselves. They're physically unable to, or possibly they're living in a location where they're not able to, like federal housing situation. It's illegal federally still to even medicate in federal housing. and certainly they can't grow for themselves.